Hey everybody, it's Mick Raj. How are you guys doing? It's been a crazy week. Um, wow, yeah. So everybody has been talking about Israel and Hamas and the Palestinians and everything that's going on over there. So I'm just going to cut to the chase, and there's a few very important things we need to look at because this is getting out of hand very quickly, and I've been telling you since the inception of this channel, we're going to go through something insane in our lifetime, in this decade, maybe next week, maybe next month, maybe next year, maybe 5 years. I think this is the beginning of it, okay? First of all, I want to address that I think these attacks were planned and known about by the government of Israel and by most likely the government of the United States. Here's a guy I follow for his financial insights, Rafi Farber. He's a Jewish man. He lives in Israel, and he's like an actual practicing Jewish person. And I really like his thoughts on the economy. And here, I really think he sees what's actually going on. That he says this was an attack by the state of Israel against the people of Israel, using Hamas as a weapon. 300 dead, murdered by the collusion of Israel with Hamas. Now, it's not like the average Israeli is going to Hamas and coordinating this. This is the people at the top. This is a false flag, essentially. And what's the purpose of it? Well, it's to get us all to motivate towards war. And what's the purpose of that? Well, that's about the only thing that can kick the can down the road farther as far as the economy is concerned. The Western economy is done if they don't keep doing false flag after false flag. Now, Gregory Manarino, another financial expert, saw that the whole thing is falling to pieces. He has the Manarino Market Index. It's the 10-year yield multiplied by the dollar index divided by 161. And as it goes up, risk in the market increases. And if it gets too high, the whole thing goes so volatile that, everything is on the verge of collapse. That's where we're headed. But it can stabilize if certain other factors are in place, like crude oil going up. That bolsters the military-industrial complex, and that can stabilize the economy. War is good for the economy, unfortunately. So this guy, as well as many others, there are tons of posts on X, former IDF intelligence for Israel saying there is no way Israeli intelligence didn't know this was coming. Much smaller attacks have been thwarted because of their intelligence. And the government was very slow to act. So it was intended. It was intended to shock. It was intended to motivate people to support war. Okay. And so Israel is fighting back. They're, killing lots of people, including civilians in the Gaza Strip. And I'm not here to judge either side exactly. I think killing civilians is horrible, regardless of which side it is. Yes, Israel has every right to defend themselves, but the way it's being done is ridiculous. Now, I think, and Rafi Farber agrees, allowing the people of Israel to have their own weapons, their own guns, in order to defend themselves, that is a smart idea, so that they can fight off any assailants, any terrorists, anybody trying to take their families hostage. From what I've heard, Israel did have fairly good, gun rights, but they limited them some years ago. So a lot of these people, I think it's something like fewer than 2 or 3% of the Israeli people actually own firearms now. And if that number had been higher, they would have been able to defend themselves a lot better from what just happened. Now, so what I'm saying is Israel's retaliating, and now the entire Muslim world is waking up, and they are going to, in turn, retaliate yet again, not just against Israel, but against the entire Christian world, because the United States and many countries in Europe are going to support Israel militarily. Here's where it gets very interesting and a little disturbing. Back around the time that the emergency alert was going off, it was curious. They announced that it was going to be set off at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time. I don't even remember. 2:20 Eastern Time. And here's a very interesting channel that I follow on YouTube, Decoding with Cody. He uses gematria to break down these little messages that seem to be coming out, with events and everything from sporting events to news headlines to this emergency alert. Now, he shows that 2:20 is, and it's a little weird. Why not 2:30? Why not a round number like 2 o'clock or 2:30? 2:20 equals Donald John Trump in gematria. It also equals the Brotherhood of Death. And of course, we're in the year 2023, which is backwards 322. It equals all these other things. Friday the 13th, Skull and Crossbones, and Pamela Voorhees. Okay, she's the mother of Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th movies, which is interesting. Also, Yale just celebrated their 322nd anniversary of its founding just last week, or just a few days ago, actually. So in this year that is essentially a backwards 322 numerologically, because you drop the zero anytime you're using numerology, 2023, which is 223, a backwards 322. The Skull and Crossbones, who are known as the Society of 322, because that's the address where they are, 322. It's also anybody who's looked into the powers that be, the secret societies, these fraternities of death, death cults, whatever, they know 322 comes up a lot. It's a very sacred number for a lot of different reasons, which I won't get into. Anyway, there also seems to be some signaling toward Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees. They actually sent out the test early, 2 minutes early. It was 2 minutes early to pretty much everyone I know that I've talked to and that I've seen post online. It was at 2:18. So what does 2:18 stand for in gematria? Jason Voorhees. What do we know him from? Friday the 13th. They were signaling Friday the 13th. Okay, that's what I believe. And this was days ago. I think he put this up on like October 4th or the 5th. It was prior to everything going on with Hamas, Hezbollah, Israel, Palestine, the Muslim world. So I already had my, high alert up for Friday the 13th. Is something going to happen on Friday the 13th? Because they like to tell us beforehand that something's coming. Okay. So then, with that in mind, the former head of Hamas has given a global call for Muslims worldwide to commit acts of jihad this Friday, October the 13th. And I believe in the movie Friday the 13th, it was actually October Friday the 13th when it took place. But either way, it's the Friday the 13th before Halloween. It has all kinds of demonic connotations, and 13 is an unlucky number. And anyway, we're not going to dive into the numerology, but the fact that it was signaled by the emergency alert, and now the former head of Hamas is calling for a day of jihad on Friday the 13th, I think there's something to this. Now, I have also heard numerous astrologers say that the alignments, it's particularly the 14th, but also the 13th, things are starting to look kind of ominous. Now, I don't get personal readings. I don't put my trust or faith in astrology, but I do believe the Bible says that the sun, moon, and stars are there for times and for seasons and for signs. Okay, so I've heard it put by other Christians who understand that it's a map. that God put up there, and it does give, it lets us know when there's a likelihood of a certain type of event to happen. And all of the alignments, and I really don't know anything about which planets and which signs and which alignments are happening, but they're not good. They're pointing towards violence, essentially acts of terrorism. And they were doing that a week ago when this all began. But it's really pointing to some crazy stuff happening for the whole second half of the month of October and into November. And everything that I am seeing just from a logical standpoint is looking like we're headed into World War III. And we know from the letter of Albert Pike that there were 3 world wars scheduled, and that on the third one, the powers that be would succeed in creating a new world order. And that the main purpose, the main point of that World War III was to pit Islam, the Nation of Islam, against all political Zionists, which is basically Jewish people and Christians that believe that Israel belongs to the Jews. So it looks like we're headed straight into this. We have United States aircraft carriers heading into the Mediterranean to possibly lend support. We have all kinds of Muslim countries mobilizing to support Palestine. We have Europe cutting off their Palestinian economic support. We have everybody just diving into this. So, yeah, another global day of jihad. This is on top of this signal from the 10-4 emergency test that signaled Friday the 13th. I would honestly be cautious, at the very least, if you live in a major city. People are saying, oh, don't go out of your house. I don't believe in, living in fear, doing things out of fear, but an excess of caution is certainly called for, not just on Friday, but for this time period that we are entering into. I really think, not all Muslims are going to start killing Jews and Christians, but some might try, and there may be some other groups that are sympathetic to them that would join them, that would want to tear down Western civilization, that would want to harm Christians and Jewish people. So I think we're moving into dangerous times, and I've been saying that on this channel. Anybody else has watched any of these previous videos I've made, not so much the last one where I'm sitting in my RV explaining why I'm not traveling. Well, I guess I'm kind of glad we're not traveling now, because, we spent a lot of our time in or near large cities. My in-laws are still in Los Angeles, and I think they're probably going to stay put on Friday and maybe through the weekend, just in their apartment. But I don't know. I don't know what to say. I feel like we're seeing crazy things like Lindsey Graham saying essentially that he supports genocide, just wiping out Hamas, not just Hamas, but all of the Gaza Strip, just killing everyone there. Now, if you know the Bible, God told the Jewish people when they took the Promised Land to kill everybody there, kill all the inhabitants. And I think it's because God knew that was their only chance. This was back when, there wasn't X or Twitter to videotape what's going on and try to, rally a counter offensive against them if they wiped out the Philistines. I learned once, and I believe it's true, that the Palestinians are modern-day descendants of the Philistines. Now, we can argue until we're blue in the face as to whose land it is, but, the Bible says God gave that land to the Hebrews, the Israelites, the Jewish people. But they didn't obey God. They were supposed to wipe out everybody that lived there, and they didn't. They intermarried with them. They let a lot of them live. So, they're a thorn in Israel's side unto this day, thousands of years later. Is everything that's happening, is this biblical? Is this according to God? I mean, I think it's God uses people in all kinds of positions to fulfill his will. Is Rafi Farber right in that the Israeli government either caused this or allowed this so that war would happen, so that they could call on the United States and other countries to come to their aid, so that they could bring about the end times or something that very much resembles the biblical end times? I don't know. I'm left wondering, is this God doing this? Is this really the end times? Is this people doing this? Do they want us to think it's the end times? Is it some combination of both? Is God using these people to accomplish his will? Or is this just yet another fourth turning? Is this just our crisis point, our world war that we're going to go through? The climax of the crisis is fast approaching. So, like I said, if nothing else, be psychologically ready for what's coming. Crazy times much crazier than anything we've lived through, much crazier than anything your parents have lived through, and most likely times that will even be crazier than World War II and the Great Depression are coming very soon. That's my take on this matter. So get right with God, get right with your family and neighbors, hopefully, and get ready to batten down the hatches, because even if we don't see anything on Friday, I have a feeling the times ahead are going to be interesting, if nothing else. Pray for Israel. I pray for them. I pray for especially the citizens of Israel and the citizens of, well, I don't even know if I believe Palestine is a legitimate, political designation. But I certainly don't think not in this day and age, they're not supposed to be genocided. Don't believe in genocide. And you see people outside, especially the Sydney Opera House, there were all these pro-Palestinians saying, gas the Jews. I mean, that's sick, especially considering what's already happened in World War II and the Holocaust. Both sides are really unhinged, especially that side, if you ask me. But yeah, I will be praying for the Israeli people and be praying for sanity to prevail, even though I think it has been scripted for this to be a time when tragedy and violence becomes somewhat commonplace for some amount of time. And as I mentioned, financial expert, the Robin Hood of Wall Street, Gregory Mannarino, truly believes, and I agree with him, that we are going to see false flag after false flag in order to keep the Western economy propped up. War, unfortunately, is good for the economy. So that may be their motive. Everybody out there, stay vigilant. Watch out for your families and neighbors and friends. Pray for peace, hope for the best, and expect the worst. Prepare for the worst. This is McRaj, over and out. Adios, muchachos. Until next time.